Revenge. It's a dish best served cold. It's a tale as old as time. And no one, absolutely no one, has ever cooked up a colder, more patient, more exquisitely crafted dish of vengeance than the king from ancient China. If you think Edmond Dantes from the Count of Monte Cristo had a raw duel and an epic comeback, let me introduce you to King Goujian. Dantes spent 14 years in the dungeon plotting his escape. Goujian spent nearly 20 years not in the dungeon but in plain sight, living a life of such forbearing, calculated humiliation that it will make your skin crawl. He didn't just want to escape, he wanted to return, to rebuild, and to utterly, completely, and artistically annihilate the man who had taken everything from him. This isn't just a story of revenge. It's a 20-year masterclass in psychological warfare, a grand theatrical performance of submission, and a terrifying blueprint for how to destroy your enemy from the inside out. This is the story of 卧薪尝胆, sleeping on firewood and tasting gall, and it is perhaps the most hardcore revenge saga ever told. Welcome to our channel. We bring you echoes across history. Grab a beer, here we go! Our story begins around 496 BC in the south of China. The Great Zhou dynasty was a shadow of its former self, and the country was a chaotic patchwork of competing states. Think of it as Game of Thrones, but with more ideologists and way better food. Our two main players are the neighboring states of Wu and Yue. They were the ultimate rivals, the Real Madrid and Barcelona of ancient China, constantly at each other's throats. In the state of Yue, we have our protagonist, the young and ambitious King Goujian. In the rival state of Wu, we have his nemesis, King Fuchai. Their fathers had hated each other, and now it was their turn to carry on the family's tradition of trying to murder each other. The first round goes to Goujian. In a major battle, he not only defeats the Wu army, but also manages to mortally wound Fuchai's father. On his deathbed, the old king of Wu makes his son, Fuchai, swear an oath. He says, "Son, will you forget that Goujian killed your father?" And Fuchai, in a moment of pure, dramatic fury, swears he will get revenge. In fact, he stations a servant in his courtyard whose only job for the rest of his life is to yell at him every single time he passes, "Fuchai, have you forgotten that Yue killed your father?" Hey, talk about a high-pressure work environment, huh? This is not a healthy coping mechanism. This is the ancient equivalent of setting your alarm clock to an insult. But it worked. Fuchai becomes obsessed. He drills his army relentlessly, driven by pure, unadulterated hatred. 2 years later, Fuchai is ready. He launches a massive invasion of Yue. And this time, he crushes Goujian's army, absolutely destroys them. Goujian and his last 5,000 soldiers are cornered on the mountaintop with no food, no water, and no hope. This is where a normal story will end. The king is defeated. He either commits suicide with honor or is executed. But Goujian is not a normal king. This is where his epic begins. His brilliant advisor, Wen Zhong, comes to him with a desperate, humiliating plan. "My king," he says, "instead of dying with honor, let's try living in total disgrace. Let's offer to become Fuchai's personal servants." Smart as Goujian will soon get his point intellectually. But what about emotionally? Being an ambitious and dignified monarch, how to convince himself to accept the abruptly fallen of his status and dignity. Same as kings and each other's enemy today need to bully Fuchai from now on? Not to mention his guilty for the royal ancestors of State Yue. Now, suicide could be an easy relief, right? What would you do if you were to fit Goujian's shoes? But Goujian has far more capacities and shoulders to bear. Choose to die, the state of Yue will be completely merged and countless people will be reduced to slaves. And the last but not least, with pride and fortitude, Goujian plants his seeds for hope deeply inside. In Chinese, the hope is called 东山再起. Let that sink in. The king of a nation is offering to become a slave. Goujian sends his advisor to Fuchai with this offer. My king, Goujian, will be your servant. His wife will be your maid. All the treasures of Yue are yours. Please, just spare our state. Fuchai's top advisor, the old, wise, and deeply sophisticated Wu Zixi, immediately sees through it. He tells Fuchai, that is a trap. A king who is willing to endure this level of humiliation is not a man who gives up. He's a man who is hiding a dagger in his heart. Kill him now, while you have the chance. But Fuchai, high on his victory, is feeling magnanimous and a little bit arrogant. From a psychological perspective, when this long accumulated sense of revenge is about to be released, it will bring about a tremendous sense of pressure and a great sense of achievement. On an objective level, Fuchai could also use a little self-control because the political risks of killing Goujian during the spring and autumn period being too cruel might provoke the vigilance and alliance of other feudal lords. Secondly, make full use of Goujian's value. A living king Goujian might have greater political value than a deceased one. Showing leniency towards defeated enemies helps to establish the image of a benevolent monarch, and it reminds people of Fuchai's great power with the captured king as servant around. If you were Fuchai, what would you do? Type 1 for kill the enemy, 2 for accept the servant, or comment your more reasonable choice. So, Fuchai looks at the glowing messengers from Yue and thinks, having my mortal enemy and his queen as my personal servants, that sounds kind of awesome. It was the ultimate power trip. He ignores Wu Zixi's warning and accepts the offer. This was his first and most fatal mistake. And so begins the first act of Goujian's grand performance, his transformation from king to slave. Goujian and his wife are taken to the Wu capital. They are stripped of their royal robes and forced to wear the coarse clothes of convicts. Their new home, a crude stone hut next to King Fuchai's horse stables. His new job, he is now Fuchai's carter. The man who once commanded armies now spent his days feeding horses and shuffling manure. And Fuchai relished every moment of it. Every time he rode out in his magnificent chariot, he would meet Goujian, the formal king, walking front, holding the reins like a common stable boy. He would parade him in front of visiting dignitaries, pointing and laughing. See that man tending my horses? He used to be a king, just like you. It was a continuous, soul-crushing exercise in psychological torture. Any normal man would have broken. He would have lashed out in anger or sunk into despair. But Goujian did neither. He leaned into the role. He became the most perfect, most humble, most enthusiastic servant imaginable. He never showed a flicker of resentment. He was always smiling, always obedient, always praising King Fuchai's wisdom and power. He was playing the long game, and every ounce of humiliation was a fuel for the fire burning inside him. The ultimate test came 3 years into his servitude. King Fuchai fell gravely ill. His own physician couldn't figure out what was wrong. The king is in despair. This was Goujian's moment. This was his Oscar-winning scene. He went to the king's chambers, bowed deeply, and asked to examine the king's excrement.
What?
What? What?
Yes, you heard that right. The court was horrified. This was insane. But Goujian, with a look of intense concentration, performed his unspeakable act. After a moment of tasting, he stood up, looking overjoyed. "Congratulations, my king," he proclaimed. "From the taste, I can tell that you are not seriously ill. You will recover in a few days." And, by sheer coincidence, Fuchai did get better. This act of supreme, almost unbelievable subservience completely convinced Fuchai. He thought to himself, "No man who harbors thoughts of revenge will ever do that. Wu Zixu was wrong. The man is completely broken. He's royal. He's more of a faithful dog than a man." Soon after, against the furious protest of his advisor Wu Zixu, King Fuchai pardoned Goujian and allowed him to return to his homeland of Yue. The performance was over. The trap was set. Goujian returns to a broken country, but he doesn't move back into his palace. Oh no, that would be too comfortable. This is where the legend of 卧薪尝胆 is born. He gives the palace to his advisors and moves into a simple wooden shack. Instead of a soft bed, he sleeps on a pile of rough, scratchy firewood. Every single night, the discomfort reminds him of his mission. And above his head, he hangs the gall bladder of an animal. Every morning, before he eats or drinks anything, he licks the gall bladder. The intensely bitter taste floods his mouth, a daily physical reminder of the humiliation he endured. Sleeping on twigs and tasting bile, this becomes his ritual for nearly 2 decades. His entire government becomes a finely tuned machine built for one purpose: revenge. But he does it with incredible subtlety. It's a campaign of both national revival and psychological warfare. The economic plan: he makes himself a man of the people. He plows the fields alongside the farmers. His wife weaves cloth alongside the common women. They live just as humbly as their poorest subjects. This inspires incredible loyalty and boosts national morale. Taxes are cut, the population is encouraged to grow, and the state's granaries slowly begin to fill. On the outside, Yue looks like a peaceful, agrarian state focused on recovery. On the inside, it's a coiled spring. The sabotage plan. This is where it gets brilliant. He knows he can't beat Wu with brutal force yet, so he decides to weaken it from within, like a cancer. The honey trap. He sends the most beautiful woman in his kingdom, the legendary Xishi, as a tribute to King Fuchai. Watch me in my worlds. We will present the full stories of the 4 beauties in Chinese history. Today, we mention the earliest one, Xishi. Fuchai, who has a major weakness for luxury and women, is instantly smitten. He builds her lavish palaces, throws decadent parties, and spends all his time with her, completely neglecting affairs of state. Economic warfare. Goujian's advisor tells Fuchai, "We have surplus of high-quality lumber. As a sign of our loyalty, we want to help you to build your new palace." Fuchai, blinded by the arrogance, agrees. Yue sends massive amounts of lumber, hollowing out Wu's treasury to pay for it all. Then, Goujian creates a fake famine, publicly buying grain from Wu at an inflated price. Wu sees a chance to profit, sells off its national grain reserves. The next year, Yue has a bumper harvest, while Wu, having sowed its seed grain, faces a real famine. It's a masterclass in market manipulation. Training talent, he secretly encourages skilled artisans and strategists from Wu to defect to Yue, while sending incompetent sycophants to serve in the Wu court, further rotting it from the inside. All the while, the old advisor Wu Zishi is screaming from the rooftops, "Can't you see what's happening? This is all a plot!" But Fuchai, lost in his life of luxury with Xishi, sees Wu Zishi as nothing but a paranoid old party pooper. Eventually, he gets so fed up with the nagging that he sends Wu Zishi a sword and invites him to commit suicide. With his last breath, Wu Zishi tells his family, "Pluck out my eyes after I die and hang them on the city gate. I want to watch the armies of Yue marching in and destroy this kingdom." With his last honest advisor gone, Fuchai is now completely blind. After nearly 20 years of sleeping on sticks, tasting bile, and meticulously executing his plan, the moment finally arrives. Fuchai, in the final act of hubris, decides to lead his best troops not to attend a conference and show off his power to other states. He leaves his capital defended by only a skeleton crew. The coiled spring of Yue finally unleashes. Goujian, now commanding a hardened, well-trained, and intensely motivated army, launches a surprise attack. They swarm into Wu capital, overwhelming the remaining defender. They capture Fuchai's son, the crown prince, and execute him. When Fuchai gets the news, he rushes back, but it's too late. His army is exhausted. His kingdom is in chaos. He's utterly defeated. In the perfect, ironic reversal of fate, it is now Fuchai who is cornered on the mountaintop. He sends a messenger to Goujian, begging for mercy. He offers to be Goujian's servant, just as Goujian had been his. But Goujian is not Fuchai. He did not spend 20 years tasting bitterness just to show mercy. His response is cold and absolute. He offers Fuchai a small, remote patch of land to live out his days in exile. But Fuchai, finally understanding the depth of the man he had once enslaved, knows this is a fate worse than death. He looks at his conqueror and says his final words. "I'm ashamed. I did not listen to Wu Zishi, and now I've brought myself to this. I have no face to see him in the underworld." Then he takes his own silk scarf, covers his face, and takes his own life. The revenge is complete. The dish, served after 2 decades of chilling, is finally eaten. The story of Goujian is brutal. It's unsettling. He is not a simple hero. He is the testament to the terrifying, awe-inspiring power of human will. His story blurs the line between patience or obsession, between justice and cruelty. Was his revenge justified? Did he go too far? He not only destroyed his enemy, but also, according to some texts, had his own brilliant advisors, the ones who helped him achieve his victory, executed afterwards, fearing they knew too much or were too powerful. He became a mirror of the paranoia he once exploited. This is the dark side of a perfectly executed revenge. The process of dehumanizing your enemy for 2 decades can, in the end, dehumanize yourself. The very qualities that allow him to survive, his cunning, his ruthlessness, his capacity for deception, are not the quality of a benevolent king. But his story endures not as a moral lesson, but as an epic saga. It's evidence to the idea that no pit is so deep that one cannot climb out of it, provided one has an iron will and an almost superhuman capacity for patience. It's a dark, thrilling, and cautionary tale about what a human being is capable of when they have nothing left to lose, except the sweet, bitter taste of their long-awaited revenge. Hey, if you appreciate stories that aren't afraid to explore the dark and complex corners of human nature, subscribe and become an angel investor for echoes across history. Brag to your friends next coffee time.